And we are live for another episode of Being Human. I'm delighted to say I'm here with Brent Pohlman. He is the CEO of Midwest Laboratories, an analytical laboratory in the Midwest. He's joining us from Nebraska, and he's the author of this book, which I have had the pleasure to read just before we came on air. Leaders Look Within. Own Your Heart to Live a Life of Gratitude. Well, Brent, it's a great pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks again for inviting me. And I'm excited about this.
Great. So to fill in for our listeners who are not familiar with your story, could you give us a little bit of the history of how you came to be running Midwest Laboratories and getting into leadership and ultimately writing the book?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, this company, Midwest Laboratories, started in 1975 by my father. We moved here. At that time, I was 10 years old. And by 15, I was working in the family business through high school, through college. And then after I got done with college, my father said, it's time. You need to go discover your own professional career, and we'll see if there's a chance that you want to come back to the business. And so mutually, we both decided, at that time, it was time that, for me to experience my dreams. And that was just so prophetic at the time, because at that time, I taught for 5 years, then I worked in the corporate world, and then the call came that, hey, do you want to come back? And I think I needed to go through that experience of teaching, and then working in the corporate world to say, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to see what it's like to come back to the family business. So in 2005, I came back. I was in marketing at that time, and marketing from 2005 to 2016. And then my dad and his two partners retired. And for 5 years, up until COVID, my father and I worked together. And from there, then my dad had all kinds of health issues, and he decided to retire. And so the last 3 years have been just kind of formative from a leadership standpoint. Quick story, Midwest Laboratories, we do analytical testing in the areas of agriculture, human health, and animal health. We have 280 employees in 13 buildings, and we're in the process of moving our campus. We do sample testing on a production volume style. To give you some what that means, in agriculture and soils, in the fall, we'll get anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000 a day. So we'll do the testing and get results out in 3 to 5 days. So we do a lot of testing. On the pet food side, we get about 1,000 to 2,000 samples a day, and we get results out in about 3 to 5 days. So that's a lot of testing. So we're a production lab, is what I kind of tell people.
Yeah, that's a lot of testing. Yeah, awesome. So how's that? I mean, and we'll definitely get into this sort of pivot point, with the illnesses in your family and so on. But how was it working with your dad for 3 years?
It was very interesting. I think even when I first came back, I had so many ideas, but at that time, I think I was kind of told, hey, calm down a little bit. We've been running this company for a long time, and we're seeing success. Just do the marketing piece, stay in your lane, and your time will come. And then I think with my dad, when his two partners left, he just kind of was like a little kid. Oh, I want to do all these things. So we did all kinds of things. We redid a lot of labs. We were replacing a lot of instrumentation. So it felt like almost like the chains were off when he was kind of running it. And I kind of watched him observe my dad, because he started this business. I mean, I wanted to be so respectful to what he was as an entrepreneur, as an owner. And it really showed me again, I was trying to search what was in his heart, and how did he put all this together, and what could I take from that?
Right. And I could just imagine, so it sounds like you had a very good relationship, right? I mean, I could just imagine a lot of people working with their fathers, it might be quite fractious and a lot of tension, but
Yeah, and again, we had a lot of different views on things, and I think that was probably part of my growing process of things that, as we get in the book, things that I had to really come and really search out and find and grasp on of how was I going to show up every single day? Am I going to hold on to these things that my dad kind of created, or is it time to change? Is there things that I could really do better or that have changed? Basically, just have changed with the times, that I need to really look at myself and see who I am and what's my leadership style going to be as I take over here.
Right. And so when you come into the leadership role, right, you get that in 2016, am I right?
Oh yeah.
How is that? Like finally getting your hands on the steering wheel.
Well, I was probably like a speed racer. I wanted to do everything fast. I wanted so much change. I'm not afraid of change, but there is a way to do it correctly. And I was probably not doing it correctly. I was going probably 1,000 miles an hour. And I really thought that we needed to upgrade our technology, all the things you see and read every single day, update your technology, be on the latest technology, bring in those people with the best knowledge, so that they can run the ship and be those people that run the, whether it's even the HR, the finance, or the lab. Let's get to these new methods. Let's buy the latest equipment. So again, I was going full, probably too fast. I was going really too fast. And then all of a sudden what was happening there was, all of a sudden these just silos were just happening. People were given the keys and they were going to just as fast. They saw me going fast. They were going fast. And before you knew it, we were headed for like a total disaster with all these things just going in motion and no real purpose, no coming together, no grounds for everything that was happening. And that's where things kind of really came to a halt, as I would say, about probably 3 or 4 years ago.
And is this coinciding with your physical issues?
Yeah, it's part of that. I mean, I think through the whole process, that's, even coming back, I think that's what I saw was even my, and when I came back, all these ideas I had, I really wanted to change, but I didn't know how to get that communicated correctly. And the partners were they were just excited because what they had built over 34 years, they were really excited that everything was growing, everything was moving. And they ran a lean and mean shop. So we had like less than 100 employees for so long. And that's how they saw that the company should run. Well, when you go into a growth mode and you want to grow the company, and they really wanted to keep the value of the company down. But when you change that and you want to grow like I did, then you're going to need people. And all of a sudden, I mean, I had to really wrestle with, oh my gosh, we need 10 more people here. 10 more people? I mean, that was like, I was super reactive. I was like, I don't think we can afford 10 people. Well, we need them. And then we'd get into these disagreements. And then all of a sudden you knew, I think it was taking effect on my body. I was not taking care of myself. I was working long hours. I thought I had to be in the day-to-day operations. So again, all these things coming together, it was taking a toll on my body. And ultimately in 2007, for all the partnerships and all that, I found myself falling asleep at my desk. And I went home and I told my wife, hey, I don't think something's right with me. Walked into the hospital. They were ready to send me home. I said, I don't think something's that. Can you please look up there and see what's going on? And sure enough, there was an artery that was 98% blocked. And that's when it told me that, that I had to have a stint. I didn't have a heart attack, but it was a wake-up call. That was my first wake-up call. Like, hey, you need to change some things that you're doing. I changed some things, but I probably didn't do enough at that time. And then it really was when all these things kind of started to go 1,000 miles an hour, I thought I'd better be in better shape. So I started down that process of trying to get better personally. But then things really had to fall apart for me to really see that. And when I say fall apart, we were having some down years in revenue and sales, and we were losing clients, and things were just not making sense. And I was trying to get more clients as clients were leaving. So, I mean, it was just that chaotic time between 2018 and 2019. And that's when, again, I think that's when that's where I really found I needed to find out who I was. And in the book, that's when I started to really say, hey, what's in my heart? What's making sense here? How are we going to make this right? And I'm just so grateful and thankful that I have again, an operations director, Dana, who really helped me kind of see that, hey, something needs to change, Brett, or I don't know if I can work with you either. So it was at that time that I really had to take some time and just say, okay, what does leadership look like? How do I really become an effective leader here? And then that's when the process took over. And that's when we started doing some things that were really, I would say, amazing and getting on the right track. And then now, it's just amazing the results of that. And we'll get into that, I know, as we talk about this. But I really think, I like how this discussion is going because everything was fast. It was fast and furious. It was for so many years.
Yeah, and so and what's interesting is even after 2007, you get this stent, but it's not. That's the way it can go. Sometimes it's like self-development, isn't it? It's like over a decade later until you start to like really wrestle at a deeper level about what's going on for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's probably a good transition into the book and why why did I write the book and what's the book all about? Well, I think at that time then I joined a mastermind and it really made me focus in on who I was. And I really wanted to be in the room with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And so I'm in this room with 150 entrepreneurs and I'm listening to their stories. I'm like, yeah, that's me, but oh my goodness. And yeah, I have those things. That's me. That's who I am. And they were any size from, $0 to $100,000 to $1 million and a few at 10 million. And then I'll never forget this one guy. He said, I'm out of the day to day and I don't know what to do. Well, what's this guy? How does that work? And sure enough, my own people came to me. This would have been in 2019, 2020, about the beginning of 2020. They came to me and just said, we were working on our mission statement, our vision statement, and our core values. And they said, hey, Brett, we need you to be out of the day to day. We're growing so fast now. We need you to find us a new location, but you can't do that if you're in the day to day. And that was really hard for me, but it was because all I saw was my dad in the day to day. I think that's what was the biggest difference. He worked day to day till he retired at the age of 80. So what I saw was, hey, if you're going to lead, you need to be out of the day to day. You need to trust your folks with the operations and let them lead and let them develop their own ways of doing things. And that's the only way it's going to be effective. If I come in all the time and disrupt that, things aren't going to happen. There's not going to be that sense of trust. There's not going to be that sense of consistency. And by the way, people want to always know where you're going. So those were kind of the wake up calls. But the first part of the book was really what's in my heart, my entrepreneur. Why did my dad do the things that the way he did things? What he did, well, there's nothing wrong. That was just the way he saw things had to be done with his partners. And again, they ran an effective, profitable business, but it wasn't going to be sustainable. If there was any growth, we're going to outgrow our buildings. We're going to outgrow the different methods, and we need more people. We need more bodies to do the work that was going to happen if we grew. So I think all those things coming together really helped me search out, what do I want? Where do we want to go? And who I was at the time that I was there. What do I really believe in?
Yeah.
And just having all those things, you got to do that. Every person, I think, and in some way, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, needs to find that for themselves. And like you said, sometimes it takes a decade, sometimes it takes, but you really have to find that yourself.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of business leaders, and this is so common, right? People being able to step out of the day to day, and that's at every level, right? Whether you're leading a small team and you've just got to reserve part of your week for the more strategic thinking, or whether you're a CEO and you may have to reserve your entire week for strategic thinking. What were the challenges you faced in stepping back?
Stepping back, well, I thought that I needed to understand everything about the business, but what I really learned, the most valuable thing, and this is what I would tell people, again, unfortunately, I have a director of operations, Dana, and she, through her, every morning we touch base. hey, what's worked out, what's the top 3 things today? And at the end of the day, we have a phone call and we just say, hey, how'd the day go? And it's amazing to me. I know more about this company today being out of the business than I did when I was in it. And that was just a huge awakening for me, was that just that piece of it, which is really gratifying and really just almost like, why didn't I do this earlier? You kick yourself like, wow. But when you find that way to work with the people around you, and you value that so much, it's amazing what you can do through people. But yeah, I look forward to every single day. Every morning, I kind of get up and I know what's going on. At the end of the day, big issues. I don't have to know all the details with that. And by the way, it really spreads that level of trust and those core values that people come first. And that's where I think our company has really taken off. It's because literally that I got out of the day-to-day. I know that we're a better company because of that.
And so it sounds like one of the key factors was you just having these short check-ins, which allowed you to stay connected, but you're not making decisions throughout the day.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And was there anything else that helped you in stepping back?
Oh yeah. Well, I did. I had really had to get good myself. If I'm going to tell people, that I care for you, I better have that something in my own self. So I did. I got into a habit of a daily routine. And so every morning I get up, I get outside, I go do some type of physical activity, and I actually am stronger and I'm better because you got to I want to bring my A game every single day.
Yeah.
And mentally, and I got to get enough sleep. I can't be out. I mean, I wear one of these. I don't know if you're familiar with the Whoops. I measure my energy every single day, so I know where my heart rate, my HRV is, and it really
tell
helps
us more
me.
about that. I found that fascinating in the book. I'd not come. I mean, I think I'd heard the term heart rate variability. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know its significance. I didn't know you could have something that monitored it. Yeah, so just pause on that. Tell us about HRV.
Heart rate variability. It's the variability in each heartbeat, and it's a measure that really tracks your whole mental, physical, and spiritual, that I found that really works the best. And a guy introduced this to me, and what it does is for me, and I didn't realize, first off, my sleep was awful. I was used to 4 hours of sleep a night, wasn't getting quality sleep. And so that was one thing I needed to work on. When I started, my HRV was 5 to 10. Normal for in the 50-year-old is probably 40 to 50. I thought the first month when I was at 5 to 10 is because I was putting so much stress on myself and I was not taking care of myself. And so again, as you get better, stronger, and mentally and get more sleep, those numbers go up. I think I've had I think my highest has ever been was 142. And my now I'm typically in the 40s, 50s. Occasionally I'll get 100, but I never knew what controlled that. But it's a mindfulness. It's breathing. It's really just getting the blood flowing. Working out. I did not know. Even working out, I didn't realize my body over time was just like shutting down. Like I could not feel even on my left leg, right leg, just simple things like that. So over the last 5 years, I've worked to get all the muscles, all the tendons, everything moving. And it's amazing the energy that can bring. I feel so much better now than I ever did 10, 15 years ago. And so all those things together, and again, the Whoop just helps me manage. If it's low, then I know myself. When you said with your dad, or when I first came, I was highly reactive, super reactive. So if someone would say something, I'd react back. Today, I've gone from reactivity to more relationship oriented. So if someone says something like, hey, I think everybody in the company should get a 30% pay increase or something like that, I'll take a deep breath. I'll just say, okay. And then someone will look at me, are you okay? I was like, just a little uncomfortable, but let's talk about that. I can slow down, and when you say words, and that's where even in the mastermind, I learned to do things like say, every day I write down what I was uncomfortable with the day before. And that's really just helped me just put it down on paper and say, hey, I'm uncomfortable about this, but is this something really pressing, or is this something that could wait? Do I need to talk about this? Do I need to spend any time on it? By writing it down, the power in that is that you're not carrying it. I'm not, because I don't know about you, but I used to, probably most of my career, I could not shut my brain out. I'd go to bed and then my thoughts were I just had a hard time shutting myself off. Today, I know I have to shut myself out about an hour before I go to sleep if I'm going to get good sleep. So I don't spend any time in front of the TV. I try not to an hour before I go to sleep. So certain things like that really just help you, again, be a better person. And so when you're out there, if I step out of the office and I look at people, there's an awareness right away. I want to be aware of what's happening around me. I want to see if people, because they're watching you. If you show that any emotion that you're if I come out of this office and I'm negative, they're going to see it. They're absolutely going to see that the boss is negative, and it's going to make them totally uncomfortable. And so I learned a lot. And then when we were all wearing masks, I couldn't tell anybody's reaction. I couldn't tell anybody. That was crazy times. And then once the mask came off again, people do gravitate towards people. That's what I've just really learned. And I think it's so huge. So yeah, that personal, just really owning yourself first is really critical, I think, if you're going to really be an effective leader.
Yeah. And I found that fascinating in the book, that you found that through wearing this HRV, you got this greater awareness, consciousness around your own energy levels. And then you were able to spot it in others, right? I could see that person's a bit off, their energy's a bit low, right? That sounded like another gift you got from just this simple device.
Yeah, it is. I used to laugh at people when they say they could feel the energy in the room. You've heard people make those comments, but you can literally, I totally believe that. You can walk in a room and like, oh, something doesn't feel right here. You really can see and feel that because you're growing your awareness and you're really more open to what's around you. When you're totally tight, packed in, not getting enough sleep, you're really just holding on to yourself, and you don't see it. You don't even want to see it. So your awareness level is very, very low. I believe that's just me, but that's really what I see. And you can see it, but yeah, no, to your point, yes. Yeah, that is a grace, and that's a huge blessing.
And a great capability in leadership, right? That being able to tune into energy levels, that's a gift, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you've mentioned the morning routine. So you've talking about journaling, what's uncomfortable for you. You mentioned the movement. Yeah. What else do you pack into your morning routine? I do.
And in journal, I write down 3 wins for the day. I have to find 3 wins every single day. What's uncomfortable. And then in the morning, I write an intention. When am I going to be a bit intentional? And one of the things I always, if I can't think of anything, I really come back to is, and it's huge for me, and it has been huge for our employees, is I want to call them by their name.
Right.
So if I say Mark or Lisa, people stop and actually respond to that, especially in the hallways, instead of hey you, or how are things going, or it's very passive. But when you say somebody's name, they really stop, because it really does personalize that you're taking the time to recognize who they are in that short time. And then you're just, I have learned I don't have to talk about work all the time. It's like, how are you doing? How's your family? How do you feel? Or how are things going? And even that connection is huge. And people can see your authenticity, and they can truly show and know that you care. So I think those things, as far as intentionality, I really work hard to that. I'm still learning. I still learn people's names. I'll even say, "Don't put your name. I know you've been here like 3 years. It's driving me crazy, but tell me." I'll ask them, "Tell me your name." I just will.
Yeah. No, awesome. You also talked about your DNA test. You said it made a big difference for you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It really highlighted for me that certain food groups, certain things, I have to really watch what I eat and what I put in my body every single day, because I was not putting good things into what I was eating. I wanted to eat more natural. I just strive towards that part. But yes, the DNA could really tell you where your reactivity. I guess
Okay.
that's it's reactivity. Where am I going to be super reactive? Or if I have 3 Cokes, I'm probably going to be, sugar levels are going to be high. I'm going to be like on another planet. I used to drink a 6-pack to 12-pack of Coke, or pop a day with caffeine. I don't even drink coffee anymore. I drink iced tea. I drink tea. I switched from coffee to tea. So I literally have really cut a lot of that stuff out because I was really so into it. I wasn't drinking any water, basically. And you need water above it, everything else.
Right. And I can imagine this all ties in to the HRV, right? Because you're getting this feedback on energy, and maybe you have 10 Cokes and you're like, I can see my HRV isn't so great today.
Exactly. Well, alcohol is a big one on HRV.
Right.
I mean, it affects me. If I have a limit of 2 drinks, but even if I have those 2 drinks, depending on what else is going on, I could really send my HRV down for the next day. So I have really, believe it or not, I have really cut down. I have tried to cut back, or I'm much more aware of how many drinks I have. So I'm not going to say I cut alcohol out completely, but even a glass of wine, I'm really careful about, do I really need that? What am I doing? I don't need that. If I want to stay sharp, I've got, maybe it's 3 days in a row of heavy meetings. You know what? I don't need to drink for the next couple of days. I really need to stay sharp and focused for these things.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Now, a theme through the book is your faith. You're Catholic. Where does that play into the story?
Yeah, I think it really happened when my mom, who had cancer, passed away. It was August 7th, so it was I just celebrated it here a couple of days ago, about 6 years ago, in 2017, and she battled cancer 2 or 3 times in her life, and but when she passed away, my sister and I found these books of prayers. They were just prayers. She prayed for her family, prayed for her friends. And we've just been reading through those. And it really struck me that I wanted to be more intentional about my faith. So I said that, but I had no idea what I was saying. So through that process, I've tried to, I've really started praying more and developing a stronger foundation of faith. It led me to, on her birthday in November of that year, 2017, my dad and I didn't want my dad to be alone at the time. So we went to a conference and we went to this coffee shop, and on the wall in this coffee shop were the words, "How can we pray for you?" And I looked at my dad and I said, "I think Mom's trying to tell us something." And so I looked at my dad and I said, "I think we need that at our office." So if you come into our main office doors, you will see a prayer wall to the left, and anybody, employees, friends, customers, can write any type of petition or request for a prayer. And there's about 3 or 4 of us, again, that always pray every single day for people who put different prayer requests out there. But again, it's so non-invasive. In our society today, how can you bring some foundation of values and into a company? And I just think it crosses all, religions. Who doesn't want to be prayed for? Or who doesn't? If you've got a concern and you're going to share it with somebody, I think it's very non-invasive. I think it's beautiful, honestly. And so that's how I don't force my faith on everybody. I live it. I live the values, and everyone has differences of opinion and values, especially today where we're seeing that way more than ever, I think. But I think something like a prayer wall just really just emphasizes, hey, I care for you, or hey, here's a place if you need some, need some help, because a lot of people don't know how to ask for help either. Write something down. And I
can imagine for many of them, even just the act of writing that down on a Post-it is going to benefit them.
Exactly. So that's how I integrate my religious values with our people, and people see that. I mean, we have people from different faiths, ideologies, beliefs. We run the gamut here, and I believe we are building such a respectful culture And it's really about, again, putting the people first. I don't think I'll probably getting on my soapbox a little bit, but we get so hung up on concepts of diversity and all inclusion and all these things. I think we're making it hard. I think we're way too hard. Let's just respect people for who they are and what they bring and what they come. We don't need to make this into some big, gigantic program or thing that we need to sign off on. I get a little bit upset about that. Let's just respect people for who they are. And that's it. Let's not go we don't have to go any further than that.
Yeah. Honor them for the spiritual being they are, right? At that level.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that makes total sense. The other thing that's coming through here, and I know it's a theme, is vulnerability. Yeah, what's been your sort of relationship to vulnerability as you've been through this?
I used to hide it. I used to get, and I think it was part of reactivity. And I kind of said a little bit about that, but it really is the breathing. It's being vulnerable enough to know, hey, people need to see your true self. When somebody says something, if I feel a little bit uncomfortable, I just need to say so, and then if I feel like I've hurt somebody's feelings, I probably now go over the top and like, oh man, I didn't realize, I didn't realize your kid was outside, or I'll just say, hey, you showed up. Is something going on? I think it's that vulnerability. You just like, I know this isn't you, and I can see it in myself. And but when you're vulnerable and you can speak to your own, hey, I've learned, gone through something similar, or I don't feel well right now, or you can just even admit to people, hey, I'm not feeling very good today. Just letting you know, I'll come to the meeting, but I'm really not my best self today. And I think people appreciate that more when you're just saying the truth, because in order to get there, again, sometimes I was very excited about my HRV. It would be really high. I was like, oh, wow, I'm full of energy. And then I'd get accelerated. I'd do the exact opposite. I said, okay, let's go. Let's see. You said that. I not only do I want that, I want 5 more things. And then they're like, what is going on with you? I was like, oh, shoot, I got into acceleration mode, didn't I? And you recognize these things about yourself. I didn't, before that, I had zero awareness. But I think by having the vulnerability and saying, all right, I know I can be a better person today, or I know these situations are going on, just recognizing your environment and where you're at and where people are at in their lives, even if they're going through a tough time or something, it just it helps me relate better to other people. I would just say that. And then it starts with yourself. You got to recognize your own weaknesses and say, hey, I don't know anything about that. Tell me more. And then they'll share more about that. So I think it's a key. I think it's a strength. I think vulnerability is a muscle. It's a strength that you got to work at. And I used to think it was weak. I think a person was weak when they were too vulnerable. I don't see that anymore. I think that it's more about wanting to learn, and it's really having a appreciation, awareness for others and yourself.
Yeah. And I'm seeing the link between the journaling, right? Yeah. Because I find that in myself. I don't know if this is true for you. Right. If I journal something out, and maybe it's sharing a feeling or sharing what I want to say to something, or whatever it might. If I basically rehearse it in my journal, I find it way easier then to share it with somebody else. Do you find that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I do. I get I could see the passion in the way you were saying that with the writing in the journal. And I mean, there's a fuel in writing that down and just knowing that whether it's something good, whether it's something bad, that there's a power in that you write it down and then you can go from there. You're like, hey, I said it here. Now what do I do with it? Do I move forward? Do I spend any time with it? But it's there and I wrote it down and now I've got control over it. It's just like a control factor, I think, with it.
Yeah, and it's like you're building this muscle. Like, hey, if I can be vulnerable with my journal, then maybe I can be a little bit more vulnerable with other people. That makes sense. Tell me about your rubber band.
Yeah, that was a series of things that I had to go through. I had a really bad negative self-talk, And so I worked with a coach on that. And she said, I want you to wear this rubber band. She put it on my wrist and said, anytime you say something negative about yourself, I want you to snap yourself. Well, that first day, and I had to write it down. First day, 35 things. I had 35 negative self-talk pieces. By the end of the month, I was down to 1 or 2. That's how bad. So it took me 4 weeks, but I was like, wow, I was really bad. I really was really hard or negative about it. And it really showed me just that simple exercise of how powerful that, or how bad I had gotten and how low I had gotten. And, but in the end, now I stop myself, when I'm about ready to say something that, whoa, write it down. What's going on, or if something feels, or I get off a call and I'm about ready to explode. It's like, okay, slow down. What's happening here? Let's see before you react. Cause I used to be so reactive, and then it's that spiral. It goes down. And, before you know it, you almost lit a fire that it's going to be hard to put out. So I think that
you've racked up 35 negative self-talk moments.
So 35 self-talk, and you've ticked off about 35 other people too along the way. Right. So yeah, exactly.
And 35 other negative other talk. Yeah. Love it. Yeah, I really like that. It's just so simple. Yeah.
But
this seems to be the emerging theme of this conversation: awareness, right? These tools and the the journaling, the HRV monitor, the rubber band. This is all tools, techniques to raise our awareness, and then we can transform from there.
Yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned this shift in your leadership from protection to prevention. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I think I told you all the projects and stuff like at work where we have to go faster. I've really learned, I don't like the term slow down, but you have to bring others along the way. I don't think I realized the power of that. And the 3 words, and I think you've seen it in the book many times too, is that people, process, and technology. Got to be in that order. People first, then you got to develop some processes for consistency, and then technology. I know we all get excited about AI. Everyone wants AI, but we're like going back to, okay, how's that affect our people? On HR, I don't think we're ready for something like on the HR side. Processes might be some things that could be sped up, or a technology, but when you really have people first, it really changes the way, your whole dynamic and the way you think about things. We're redoing our whole systems here, our laboratory information management systems. I bought one. This would have been 2018, paid over $500,000, and it was a total failure. It was going to take us probably 10 years to get over it was taking, for one method, it was taking 4 months of programming to get in one method. And we have over 4,000 methods. That's like, I can't do this. So we are building our own system. So when you build your own with a company that we're working with, you really look inside and you say, hey, how's this going to really affect us? How do we don't care about our, and I think I've seen it even in our economy that competition is not my big, it used to be the big thing is your competitors and stuff, but now you're really almost competing against yourself and the world they did, you really, for me, it's a competitive internally here. How do we make this the best system for our people? How do we make the best system for our clients? How do we make this so it's really going to work for us? I'm not worried about what the competition builds. I don't care if they get there faster. It's got to work for us because we are so unique and different than our competition because we're going to do things differently. And that really starts with the core values. Everything starts driven from your core values. And it really does slow you down. I shouldn't say slow you down, but it makes you really think about what you're doing instead of like, okay, we could probably get up at speed and have this great technology, but is it really going to last? Or are we willing to put up with all the mistakes because we didn't think things through? And I think for years we did that a lot. We just put in things fast. People will learn. And then we came back and we're constantly fixing the same things over and over again.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And as you lay it out, that it seems crazy to be thinking about the competition, because you're really thinking about them over there.
Oh yeah,
rather than your own people. Yeah, and that makes total sense.
Yeah, and a good example of that is we have a lab with Costco. Costco had their own lab, and we said, "Hey, give us a chance." And then the beginning part, they just like, "Why should we even listen to you guys? Hey, just you come to our campus, see what we have." And then they, and through that process, we actually did outdo the lab that they wanted to go through. But I know it was the people. It was myself. But when they met the people here, they really liked who all the information that was being provided by our analysts, by our supervisors, by our technical directors. They got to meet the people, and that's what sold them on it.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, you can use this in a lot of ways, but if you do focus on the people first, you'll get so much farther than any process or technology. I'm so convinced of that.
Yeah. What was it? So it reminds me of the Branson quote. Somebody mentioned it on the previous podcast, right? You know, look after the people, they'll look after the customers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome, Brent. Well, is there anything that we've not touched on that you would have wanted to share?
I think through this process, finding my why, and we kind of touched around it, but my why and how is I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart. And by putting those words together, I had to find that. And that was really the core thing for me and my leadership, was really finding that phrase that I say every single day.
Oh, you say it every day?
I say it every day. And that's who I am. That's why I get up every morning. That's why I want to bring my A game every single day, because I'm excited to come to work. I want to be around people. I want to be around and see the wins every single day that we are producing here. And I know there's a big responsibility. I know people are depending on this job for their families. And then the other part of that is their dreams. They have dreams. Every employee here has their own dreams. And they should get the opportunity to pursue those. If that's at work, that's fine. But I'm hoping they have things outside of work that really drive them, whether it's a family, whether it's their own personal dreams. And that's where I get excited. And I didn't used to be like that, but again, when you change your whole focus and you put people first, you'll do amazing things. And our company, the growth, we talked about it a little bit, but since 2000, through the pandemic, we were given PPP money and from the government of $2.8 million. And we never used a penny. We gave it all back to the government because we're doing so well. And I attribute that to all this coming together, stating our core values, living by those, and really working together and respecting each other for what the gifts that each of us brings to the table. And again, through that, we're continuing to work. We have our ups and downs, just like every company, but we know we can work through them. That's the great thing. And we have that respect for people, and it's building every single day. I see it every single day, that it's just building more and more. And that's what it's all about. If you're going to make it, I think today is you got to bring people aboard that sharing those same values. Sometimes the culture will shake some of that stuff out, but the negativity, the issues, they rise to the top and we deal with them. And then when we deal with them in an effective manner, you have straight talks. You can correct the behavior in some cases. Sometimes it can't be corrected. And then we help those people find their next place. Where can we help you find your next job or next experience? But that whole mindset, again, been a transformation. That's why the book, I mean, I just share a little bit about who I am and where I came from, but there's no perfect plan out there. Not a self-help book. You got to find it yourself. Yeah. It took me years and years, but once you find it, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it really sounds like, you've dug deep, you've got to the core of what you're about, and now you're in the privileged position of being a leader, right? And you can have this impact across an entire company. Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, thanks once again, Brent. For people who want to get the book, it's a short read full of stories that are all based in reality and your experiences, with Midwest Laboratories. So that's great as a business book. Leaders Look Within. We'll put a link to that in the description. anywhere else you'd send people if they've been inspired by this conversation?
Richard, they can find me on LinkedIn, obviously under my name, Brent Pohlman, or CEO of Heart.com. You can go to that website.
Right.
I post information about the book and some other things to help you find your own leadership style in your, again, what's in your heart. Basically, find what's in your heart, and then that'll help you know how and why you want to lead.
And by a whoop, what's it called? A whoopee? A whoop?
A whoop. The WHOOP. Yeah, a whoop. There you go.
And by a whoop. Awesome. All right. Thanks again. This has been fantastic. I really enjoyed it, Brent. Thanks.
Thanks, Richard.